Hello everyone. After taking a couple of weeks off for the holidays, I'm back here at Springhill Cemetery in Nashville, Tennessee. This week, I've moved all the way to the back of the cemetery to the Garden of Devotion, where we find the final resting place of one of the most versatile musicians the industry has ever known. Right here, at the gazebo, we find the grave of Captain John Hartford. John Hartford was born on December 30th, 1937 in New York City, but he grew up in St. Louis, where he was captivated by the Mississippi River and its riverboats. In addition to his love of river life, John developed a second love of music. He was particularly interested in the music of the Grand Ole Opry and a banjo player named Earl Scruggs. By the time he was 13, John had mastered both the fiddle and the banjo, soon learned how to play the guitar and mandolin. But despite his love for music, the river was always calling. And at the age of 16, he took a job on one of the St. Louis steamboats. From that time on, John Hartford was always working on the river or singing about the river. After graduating from high school, John immersed himself in the local music scene, working as a DJ and playing with some local bands. He also recorded for a few small local labels in St. Louis. In 1965, John moved to Nashville, where he soon signed a recording contract with RCA and recorded his first album, Looks at Life, in 1966. In 1967, John recorded his second album, which produced his first major songwriting hit, a song called Gentle on My Mind. John's recording of the song was really not very successful, but Glenn Campbell took notice of the song and also recorded it. Gentle on My Mind would become one of Glenn Campbell's most successful hits. In 1968, Gentle on My Mind won the Grammy Award for Best Country and Western Song and Best Folk Song for John Hartford, and the Best Country and Western Vocal Performance and the Country Music Song of the Year for Glenn Campbell. Over the years, Gentle on My Mind has been one of the most recorded songs in music history, with such stars as Dean Martin, Aretha Franklin, Frank Sinatra, and Elvis Presley all having hits with the song. Gentle on My Mind granted John his financial independence, and as his popularity grew, he spent time on the West Coast, where he became a popular regular on the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, the Glenn Campbell Good Time Hour, and the Johnny Cash Show. Even with all of his musical success, his love for the river never subsided, and in 1970, John earned his steamboat pilot's license, and for many years he worked as a pilot during the summer on the steamboat the Julia Belle Swain. He would also work for several years as a towboat pilot on the Mississippi and Tennessee rivers. In his later years, John made his home on the banks of the Cumberland River in Madison, Tennessee. There he could see the boats and barges as they made their way along the sharp bend in the river, and would often talk with the captains by radio. That bend today is listed on navigational charts as Hartford's Bend. In 1980, John was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. He received treatment for the disease, which sent it into remission for several years. But in 2000, the disease returned and eventually claimed his life on July 4th, 2001. Captain John Hartford was 63 years old. In a previous video, I visited the grave of Country Music Hall of Famer George Morgan. While I was there, I also recorded some footage at the gravesite of his son-in-law, country music star Keith Whitley, who was married to George's daughter Lorrie. Something went wrong with my camera's memory card and I thought I'd lost all that footage. But I forgot that I'd recorded a small amount of video on a second camera, and I'm going to include that footage here. All of the websites I checked shows that Keith Whitley was born on July 1st, 1954 in Ashland, Kentucky. However, the date on his grave marker shows the year of birth is 1955, so I'm not really sure which is correct. Keith began his music career in Fort Gay, West Virginia, when bluegrass legend Ralph Stanley was late arriving for a scheduled show. When Stanley did arrive, he found 16-year-old Whitley and another 16-year-old named Ricky Skaggs entertaining the audience. Stanley was so impressed that he hired the two teenagers on the spot. In the early 1980s, Keith moved to Nashville and signed a recording contract with RCA. In 1988, Keith had 3 #1 hits: Don't Close Your Eyes, When You Say Nothing at All, and I'm No Stranger to the Rain. Keith Whitley would become one of country music's most talented and popular performers. Keith's struggles with alcohol has been well documented, and as a result began to compromise his health and affect his career. His battle with alcohol would end up claiming his life. On May 9th, 1989, a friend went to Keith's home and found him unresponsive. He was taken to a local hospital where he was pronounced dead at the age of 34. The official cause of death was acute alcohol poisoning. Keith Whitley was inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2022. His wife Lorrie accepted on his behalf. Lorrie Morgan holds the distinction of having both her father and her husband as members of the Country Music Hall of Fame. Well, this is where I'm going to end this video. If you remember John Hartford, Keith Whitley, or any of the people that we visit in these videos, please be sure to leave me a comment. In the next few weeks, I'm going to be wrapping up my visit to Springhill Cemetery. I'm going to be visiting the graves of Country Music Hall of Famers Earl Scruggs, Hank Snow, Johnny Wright, and Kitty Wales, along with bluegrass great Jimmy Martin. In 2023, I'm thinking about returning to Nashville and visiting some of the country music personalities that I've missed or have passed away since my last visit. A number of folks have contacted me about wanting more NASCAR and professional wrestling videos, so a trip down to Charlotte, North Carolina is in the works for the spring. I post a new Tombstone video every Sunday morning, so if you enjoy these types of videos, I hope you'll consider ringing that bell and subscribing. And while you're at it, a thumbs up is always appreciated. So until next time, please remember, life is a wonderful journey. Take time and enjoy it. And I'll see you down the road. So long, everyone.